Most of the Linux commands accept file names and directory names as arguments. When you're present inside a particular directory, you can access all the files in that directory directly. So all the files and directories inside your current directory can be accessed by just specifying the name. For example, suppose you are in this directory documents. You can refer to this directory or these files by just writing their names. If you want to open this file data.txt, you will issue an appropriate command and just write the name of this file. So when you specify a file name or a directory name, the shell assumes that you are referring to a file or directory in your current directory. Now suppose you want to access a file that is not present in your current directory. For example, you want to access this file script1.sh or this file students. Now both these files are not present in your current directory. So you can't just write their names to access them. We can access these files in two ways. The first way is to move to the directory in which the file is contained and make it your current directory. So to access this file, we have to move to this directory. To access this file, we have to move to this directory. We can easily do this with the help of cd command that we will see later on. If we don't want to change our current directory, we want to keep working in this directory only, but want to access files of other directories, then we have to specify path names for the files instead of simple file names. A path name allows you to identify a file in the system. Path names may be absolute or relative. First, let's see what are absolute path names. Absolute path name of a file or a directory is a complete path name beginning with the root directory. An absolute path name always starts at the root directory. So it always begins with a / and after that we have the full path in which successive directories are separated by using a /. These are some examples of absolute path names. The directories are separated by /. The first / is different. It represents the root directory. This is the absolute path name of this directory. We start at the root directory, then this directory, and then this directory. Now this is the absolute path name of this file. We start at the root directory, then this directory home, then this Amit documents, and then we reach here. And this is the absolute path name of this directory students. So an absolute path name of a directory or a file specifies the exact location of the directory or the file in the file system. There can be two files with the same name in different directories, but their path names will be different. They can be uniquely identified with their absolute path names. The absolute path name of each file on the system will be unique. No two files can have same absolute path names. For example, these two files have the same name, but their absolute path names are different. Now we come back to our problem. We were in this directory and wanted to access these two files. So now we know we can access them by writing their absolute path names. No matter wherever you are in the file system, you can access a file by using its absolute path name. Absolute path names can be very long if the directory is located many levels under the root. Typing such a long name can be tedious. So Linux provides a shorter way of specifying path names. Instead of absolute path names, we can specify relative path names, and it can help reduce some typing load. Path names that do not begin with a / are relative path names. So a relative path name does not start from the root directory. It starts from your current directory or parent directory. These are some examples of relative path names. We can see that a relative path name starts with a single dot or a double dot or just the name of a directory. It uses either the current directory or the parent directory as a reference and specifies the path relative to it. It starts with a single dot if you're referring to a directory under your current directory. So from inside this directory, if we want to access this file students, then we can specify this relative path name instead of this absolute path name. The single dot represents the current directory. It is implicitly included whenever we specify a path name that starts with a directory name or when we specify a simple file name. So we can omit this single dot and just write phones/students. Now inside this directory, when we write the simple name proc.c, shell includes this single dot implicitly and gets the path of the file. Now suppose you are in this directory Peter. So for accessing this file students, you can write either this or this. For accessing this file data.txt, you can write either this or this. And for accessing this directory music, you can write either this or this. These notations are equivalent. This one without the dot is generally used for the obvious reason that we don't have to type these two extra characters. Now let's see the path names that begin with a double dot. Inside this directory, if we write this path name, we are referring to this file. This double dot takes us to the parent of current directory, which is home. And from there, we go to Amit, documents and data.txt. Now suppose we are in this directory phones and we want to access this file data.txt. We can specify this path name. This double dot takes us to parent of phones, which is documents, and from there we go to data.txt. We can go up more than one level by using multiple double dots. So to access this file from here, we can write this path name. This double dot takes us to parent of phones, which is documents. This double dot takes us to parent of documents, which is Peter. And this double dot takes us to parent of Peter, which is home. And from there, we follow this path. In some cases, absolute path is smaller. For example, to access this directory games from this directory phones, we can write this relative path name, but the absolute path name is much shorter.